We are on Mount Charleston area, and this is the South Climb Trailhead. Now we're going to take a different route today. There's the parking area for the South Climb Trailhead. This is an adjoining parking area, and the reason we're here is that we're going to find a way up to the summit of Harris Mountain. And you can see Harris Mountain right between these two trees. That's what we're headed for. And of course, this is not the best view spot in the universe here for Harris Mountain, but you can see a ridge right up in this area. We need to get to this ridge and get up to the summit of Harris Mountain. This is not the main way up to the summit of Harris Mountain. Let's do a 360-degree view here. Beautiful area. And there, behind those trees, this is like the behind the tree view here. Behind these trees is Cathedral Rock. So the reason we are taking this strange approach, normally, if you're going to go up Harris Mountain, you're going to take Harris Springs Road and take the main trail to Harris Mountain. But what we're doing is we're working out a wilderness route up to the summit of Harris Mountain from the South Climb, because this is the first of our test runs here to prepare for a 6-peak circuit run, which I don't know if it's ever been done before, but it's to take 6 peaks in the Mount Charleston wilderness, and those peaks will include Harris Mountain, Griffith Peak, Charleston Peak, Lee Peak, Mummy Mountain, and Fletcher Peak. So we're going to take all those peaks in, and the only way to do that is to start here and hit Harris Peak first. And then I would end at the South Climb parking area, begin and end at the South Climb parking area. But there are two main wilderness areas that we need to scope out here. One is the wilderness area between this spot and Griffith Peak by way of Harris Peak summit. And the challenge of this is that there are no trails, and there's a lot of cliff areas, as you can see, that we want to circumvent. I've done this before in the other direction. I've never done it in this direction. So that's one of our challenges. Another challenge on this end is getting through the Rainbow subdivision without getting near anyone's property. So that, I think, is the biggest challenge of this whole 6-peak run. And then there's two other major wilderness areas. One is the area between Lee Peak and Mummy Mountain, where you take the high ridge on the north ridge of Laval Canyon without descending, so we don't need to descend and reascend. And I've done that a number of times, so that's not going to be a problem. The challenging part will be once I hit the summit of Mummy Mountain, going down the eastern side of Mummy Mountain and over to Fletcher Peak. That's another pretty challenging wilderness route. And I've gone in the opposite direction, going up the eastern side of Mummy Mountain. So it's just a matter of turning things around, just like I am today. I've come down to this area from Griffith Peak, then over to Harris Mountain, then down to this area. I just haven't gone this direction. Now, the timing for my 6-peak circuit is going to be 5 hours up to Griffith Peak, and then 3 hours to each peak after that, except from Fletcher Peak to the end of the Sick Peak circuit will be 2 hours. And if you take that timing, we're looking at 19 hours. I'm going to be doing this on one of the longest days of the year, so I get the most sunlight. I don't want to hit one of these wilderness areas in the dark, for sure. But that means that we're looking at July 11th for the Six Peak run. And so anyway, that gives me two days to scope South Climb to Harris to Griffith, and 2 days to scope out the east side of Mummy Mountain down to Fletcher Peak. So today, the goal is to get up to the summit of Harris Mountain, over to Griffith Peak, and then down the South Climb Trail. So we're just going to do that Harris Griffith circuit today and practice that. So that's a lot of explanation, but I wanted to show the overall strategy for the Six Peak circuit. And this is the first test run for it. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's another view of this area. We're still in that's a long parking area. This is quite a picnic area here. And it's been closed for some time. Okay, now we get a little more of the view of where we are though. There's the ridge I want to be on. So I need to ascend that ridge, and I believe that's the ridge that's going to take me up to the summit of Harris Mountain, but I'm not sure. I may need to skirt around the base of that ridge, and there's another ridge that leads up to Harris Mountain, which the more I think about it, that's what I need to do. So I maybe do not want to ascend this ridge, but find another ridge around the base, the left base of the ridge. So I'm going to head down across this area and see what I can find. He has put a lot of work into this area. There are walking paths here, and I'm still, I'm continuing on beyond that parking area. And walking paths with interpretive signs. Very beautiful area. Totally unknown, probably not open yet. But I'm going to continue along now around the base of this ridge. So here we go. As you can see, we're in pretty rugged country here. Okay, this is that first ridge. Somehow I don't think this is the ridge. I think I need to skirt this ridge, and I want to see what's on the other side, because I think there's another ridge that actually leads to where I want to go. So yeah, I could go up this ridge, but then I may find that I have to do a huge descent. So I'm going to skirt around this ridge and see if I can connect, or I can see the ridge that actually leads up to the summit of Harris Mountain. Okay, here we go. Traversing avalanche slopes. Not really, but it was a good decision, because to come around the base of this ridge rather than go up thinking I'm going to end up at Harris Mountain, because now I see Rainbow Subdivision down there. I see their water tower. So I am definitely on track. Haven't been up this direction before, but it looks like it could be the most direct route up to Harris Mountain. There you can see Mummy Mountain. So I just need to skirt around this area. Hopefully it's not going to be so steep that it's going to give me a problem. So far, so good. This has been a good direction. Okay, let's continue. This is really slow going. Very loose rock on this avalanche slope. And every now and then, it looks like there's the faintest trail. This may not be human. This may be an animal trail. But I'm still skirting around this ridge, this first ridge, and then you can see the rainbow subdivision beneath. I think that a better approach might have been to descend a little more. And there's actually a road through the rainbow subdivision. I'm not sure I want to walk that road. That's the only thing. But maybe that's going to be the better route. Good shot of Mummy Mountain. Okay, continuing around the edge of this ridge. And let's see what happens. Well, the good news is that I have skirted the rainbow subdivision down there without getting into anyone's area. And I believe we're looking at the approach ridge right here. If it's not, it's close enough. I'm going to go up this ridge and then take the ridge all the way, take a ride up there and take it all the way up, hopefully to the top, the summit of Harris Mountain. We will see if I'm right there and if there's not another ridge beyond. Anyway, good. It's slow going though. I've eaten up an hour already. Next time I do this, I could do it faster. Maybe I'd take a lower route. I don't know. Let's just see what things look like up there and if there are other potential routes. What I want to find is the most rapid streamlined route up to the summit of Harris Mountain from the South Climb Trailhead. So here we go. On a hunch, I decided to skirt that last ridge also, which is this ridge over here, as yet another ridge on the way to Harris Mountain. And that was the right decision because that ridge is actually the ridge I want to be on. I need to navigate my way over to that ridge, and there's a pretty substantial canyon between me and the ridge there. But now I see where I am. There is Harris Mountain, and the ridge that I need to be on is, as you follow this down, you can see the ridge and what I need to skirt to get to that ridge. And Harris Mountain, the saddle, and then the cliff system up to Griffith Peak. So this is a route. It could be a lot faster though. I've gone through the streets of the Rainbow subdivision down there and actually ended up in a better situation. I bet I could have done this. I could have saved 45 minutes over where I am right now at this moment, maybe even more. And I would be heading up that ridge, maybe even on the ridge, going up to Harris Mountain. So this route that I took today is probably not a preferable route up to Harris Mountain, other than that it totally avoids the Rainbow subdivision. Let's just see what it takes to get through that canyon that's ahead and then ascend to the top of the ridge over here. I think that, yes, that ridge right there, that's where I want to be, and then heading up to Harris Mountain. So let's see what it takes to get onto that ridge. Okay, don't know. It's going to be a challenge, but we are exploring today and mapping out this section of wilderness. Here we go. Okay, it's really good that I skirted that last ridge because this puts me above the Rainbow subdivision, and there is the last house in the Rainbow subdivision. And what we need to do is now we angle our way down into this canyon, over to the other side, and then up that ridge to Harris Mountain summit, take a right, go down to the saddle, and then skirt the back side of that cliff, head up to Griffith Peak summit. So we're on track. I don't think this is the most streamlined route though. A lot of avalanche slope action here to skirt, and some of it was rocky and then it became grassy, which is even more slick. But we're on track. That's the main thing. And we need to just head straight up to that ridge ahead, right? That goes right up to Harris Mountain. So here we go down into the little canyon and then angle our way, find our way up to the ridge straight ahead. Okay, here's the thing. I came out on a road. It's at the very top of the Rainbow subdivision. And I see one house above us, but then this road continues, and where we want to be is on top of that ridge up ahead. And so what I'm going to do is head straight up to the top of that ridge from here. That will take us up to Harris Mountain. And seeing these fine roads, probably had I found the roadway to this location rather than skirt those tediously slow avalanche slopes, I would have made it sooner. But then I'm walking through people's residential area, and that could have complications with dogs and other issues, and people wondering, what in the world are you doing up here in our residential area? So I did successfully skirt the Rainbow subdivision to end at this point. However, yes, I could have gotten here sooner with the roads. But those have their own complications, as I mentioned. So here we are. We are an hour and 40 minutes into this. And one would think we could have been here within an hour. So my goal is still Griffith Peak within 5 hours. I got to do that to keep on time on the 6 peak circuit day. So here we go. Let's see where we're at. Okay, now it's becoming more clear. I believe, we'll see when we get higher, but I believe this is Harris Mountain. Or Harris Mountain is behind it. And so we're going to head as straight for that as possible. But as you can see, the canyon drops to the right. So we may want to just get to the high ridge here and then continue on up. And there is the saddle area and the cliffs. We skirt around the other side to head up to Griffith Peak, and I believe, not sure, but I believe Griffith Peak is right up here. So now at least we see where we're at. We're out of the avalanche slopes for now. I think there will be some on the other side of that cliff system as we head up to Griffith Peak, but we skirted the traversed, I would say, the greatest avalanche slopes. Had I gone up an earlier ridge, I would have ended up somewhere up in that area, and as you can see, that would not have been a good place to be if I'm trying to get up to Harris Mountain. So I did gauge the ridges correctly and skirted the base or the mid section of a number of ridges to get from the South Climb trailhead to this point. So we are on track. Haven't made any wrong turns, but the only question is, could we have done it more efficiently? So let's continue on up, head up to this point up here, and this may be Harris Mountain. I don't know. When we get up there, we'll look around and see if there's something yet higher. I just don't know yet. Here we go. Okay, continuing to rise. And I got to say that it's a lot easier, but still a bit grueling to ascend a grassy avalanche slope if you're going straight up rather than traversing it. So here you can see, let's take a look around, see what we can see. There is Fletcher Peak, Mummy Mountain, Charleston Peak, and Griffith Peak. And then up ahead here, once we get to the top of this ridge, and we still have a ways to go straight up. This is where the daily conditioning really makes a huge difference, because you're literally pulling yourself up an avalanche slope that is going to be, a mile, 2 miles long. And so you don't want to be tired. So tired when you get to Harris Mountain that you can't get over to Griffith Peak, which will be another experience all in itself. But it looks like we're still on track. Let's see where we are when we get to the top of this ridge, and we can look around and see, hopefully, a direct route over to Harris Mountain. Okay, onward. I've summited a ridge system here. I'm on the approach ridge to Harris Mountain. There's Mummy Mountain, Fletcher Peak to the right, and then looking around here, there is Harris Mountain. So I need to navigate this ridge to the summit of Harris Mountain, which, according to my altimeter, is 2,000 feet higher than I am right now. It doesn't look that far, but that's 2,000 more feet. And then once I get to the top, I'll be taking a right, heading down the saddle, around the backside of those cliffs, up to find a ridge and head up to Griffith Peak. So at this point, I have about 2.5 hours. Yeah, 2.5 hours almost exactly into this trip. If you take away the video time, probably 2 hours 15 minutes, 2 hours 10 minutes. But it's still quite the experience getting to the top here of Harris Mountain. And if I'm thinking about doing Griffith, Charleston, Lee, Mummy, and Fletcher Peak following this, wow, I'm feeling that I've used up a lot of energy at this point and a lot of time. So let's see if we can get up to Griffith Peak over there with a 5-hour total. That is my hope today. A couple places we could have shaved off some time. Well, only one major place, and that is the Rainbow Subdivision. Instead of skirting those avalanche slopes, could have saved potentially a half hour, and it'd be 2 hours at this point. And so we'll try that next time. Okay, onward. Continuing up this ridge system, I believe we're nearing the summit of Harris Mountain, unless there's a false summit I've been looking at and there's a true summit behind it. But so far, looks like we're on track, and let's look around. There's Griffith Peak. And definitely my next move is to take the saddle between Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak, skirt the other side of those cliffs, the left side. Okay, and here you can see the south ridge of Kyle Canyon, and I believe that is the junction point, or just to the right of that hill is the South Trail Junction, where you take a right and you head on over to Charleston Peak. And then here you see Lee Peak, and around to Mummy Mountain, and Fletcher Peak. So we're definitely up there, and we are almost at what I call the upper circle here. Anything above, well, when you hit 11,000 feet on top of Griffith Peak, you're basically on a circle route that circuits around Charleston, Lee Peak, Mummy Mountain, and Harris Mountain. And what we'll do on the 6 peak circuit day is go down the other side of Mummy Mountain. We've gone up that side, we haven't gone down, and then we'll get to Fletcher Peak, and then head back down to the Canyon Trailhead. And then looking down here, Charleston Village, and here you see Cathedral Rock. We started today at the base of Cathedral Rock, and you can see the terrain that we navigated along the top of the Rainbow Subdivision, and then up this ridge we're on right now. So we are getting close, I believe, to Harris Mountain. We've got about 3 hours into this. I wanted to get to Griffith Peak in 5 hours, so we'll see how this continues. Okay, onward. Well, here's the slope we've been ascending. There's Charleston Village, Cathedral Rock. Now let's go ahead and give you a zoom in here. Cathedral Rock, where we began. Griffith Peak, our highest destination for today. And then you can see the south ridge of Kyle Canyon over to Mount Charleston, Lee Peak, Mummy Mountain, and Fletcher Peak. Okay, on a bit of a precarious position, and there is the down in that area, I guess, is Kyle Canyon Road, heading to Mount Charleston, and that's where I believe that where some camping areas are. Rainbow Subdivision. Okay, so now you know where everything is. The big question is this the summit of Harris Mountain? Or are we going to get to the top of this and find out that it is a false summit, and we've got another, I don't know, 1,000,000 feet to ascend? It seems like I've been going straight up forever. So let's go ahead and I'll resume this video as we near this high point. The answer to that last question is no. This is not the summit of Harris Mountain. There is yet a higher point. The good news is that it looks like the incline factor has decreased, and so it's going to be a little easier going to the next summit. And is that summit in the distance the true summit or another false summit? Who knows? If you've ever been in false summit land, you know that you ascend to a high point that looks like it's going to be the true summit, and then you get to that high point and lo and behold, you look in up ahead and there is a higher point. So we've done that just now. Let's do a 360-degree view toward Harris Mountain. Love it if that was Harris Mountain. And then here you see Laval Canyon coming into view. And it is to the, there's Griffith Peak. And we've done some traveling on Laval Canyon. And one of the goals that I have is hitting that ridge to the left of Griffith Peak from Laval Canyon and on up to the summit of Griffith Peak. Haven't done it yet, but I've gotten up toward that point. Okay, so Griffith Peak, south ridge of Kyle Canyon, Charleston Peak, Lee Peak, smaller peak, the north ridge of Kyle Canyon, which we skirt on the 6 Peak Summit Day, and Mummy Mountain. So, and then looking down into Kyle Canyon and Charleston Village over in the distance there. There's Charleston Village, and looking down at our starting point, just to see how far we've come so far. There is Cathedral Rock. That's where the Beast is parked. It'll be a long time before I get back to that point because I've got to go there by way of Griffith Peak. So, okay, onward and upward. Continuing to ascend, we are now in bristlecone pine territory, which means that we are approaching 10,000 feet. So we are closing in on the summit of Harris Mountain. Just realized I'm not really acclimatized to this altitude. The highest I've been all winter and spring is 8,000 feet. We're nearing 10,000. And then when we hit Griffith over here, we'll be at 11,000. So, yeah, I'm getting challenged with the altitude, but continuing on up, I think I'm closing in on Harris Peak, or Harris Mountain. Here we go. Woohoo! We are on the summit of Harris Mountain. And here's a look at the summit. It's got this alpine look. Spring in the upper mountain here. We're a little above 10,000 feet, I believe. You can see the plants here. Let's take a look around. Okay, our next summit is Griffith Peak. Another wilderness section. It took us about 4 hours minus part of the videos, probably a little under 4 hours to get to this point. I was hoping to get to Griffith Peak in 5 hours total. Think I can do it? I don't think so. Not up that ridge, and that's 11,000 feet. But I have to descend about 500 to 1,000 feet before I ascend that saddle up to Griffith Peak. So it's going to take a while. But here's something that is good to look at. You're looking down on Laval Canyon, and we've done some trips recently in Laval Canyon, and we have actually made it just below, we've made it just about to, let's see, okay, hold it. Yes. Somewhere right in there to the left of the clouds on that ridge. And as you can see, we were closer to the summit of Griffith Peak. Well, let's see, just a minute, sorry. We were closer, you look to the left of the clouds and that high ridge over there, we were closer to the summit of Griffith Peak than we are right now. So that south approach to Griffith Peak looks very possible. Just a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we were on La Madre Mountain. Made the summit of La Madre Mountain. Let's take a look. There is La Madre Mountain, that high point right in the center. 8,000 feet. We're about 10,000 where we are right now. And looking out in this direction, there, that pointy peak right in the center in the haze, that's Griffith Peak. I mean, not Griffith. Sorry, that's Gas Peak. I'm getting a little loopy up here at this altitude. 2,000 feet higher than I'm acclimatized to. And then Sheep Range. Fletcher Peak. Mummy Mountain. Lee Peak. And through the bristlecone pines, Charleston Peak. And then over this way again. Our goal for today, Griffith Peak. And I'm pretty much committed because it's about as much effort and navigation to get up to the summit of Griffith Peak as it would be to turn around and go down the way I came. So yes, hopefully it won't take more than 3 hours to get up there though. Wow, that's a lot of time. Okay, so anyway, that gives you the idea where we are. And you can see Kyle Canyon down this way, and you can see Kyle Canyon Road and Harris Springs Road to the right of Kyle Canyon Road. And that's the road we ran when we headed up to La Madre Mountain. And by the way, just to the right of La Madre Mountain, that high point up there, you see a smoother peak. That's El Padre Mountain. And let's see, the Red Rock Park is right on the other side of those mountains. That's the Keystone Thrust. And here we've got Potassi Mountain down through the end of Laval Canyon. What else do we have? Oh, what do you know? There is Bridge Mountain right in the center. That's above Red Rock Park. And then if you look at the peak, just to the left I believe, and above Bridge Mountain. And in the foreground, Green Peak, I believe, no promises, but I believe that is North Peak. And it's on the Wilson Ridge system. And some of those high peaks up in the, just to the right of Bridge Mountain. Bridge Mountain is a smooth brown mountain in the Rainbow Mountains. To the right of that would be Rainbow Mountain itself, and then Mount Wilson. So there you have it, the Rainbow Mountains area. And I think that's about it. That's about the most we're gonna see from this point, but just thought I'd point a few things out. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little rest here, refuel, and get ready for the next leg of the journey down the saddle and then up to Griffith Peak. Again, no trails, so this should be very interesting. Hopefully 3 hours. It's time to make a beeline for Gas Peak. So here we go down the saddle. You can't really see it from here. Let's see. Let's take a quick look. Maybe we'll see something down there. Nah, can't see it from this spot. We'll take a closer look in a little bit after we've descended a bit on the saddle. So next destination, Griffith Peak, and hopefully 3 hours or less. Here we go. Let's see if we can get a clearer view of the saddle and where we're headed. There's Griffith Peak. I don't like seeing those clouds up there. The last thing I want to be is in the wilderness and in total whiteout clouds. But anyway, so we're headed down this ridge to the saddle, and that would be there's not really good footing right here, but that would be right down in this area where you see these cliffs, and we'll skirt the left side of the cliffs and then head on up the ridge to Griffith Peak, which is getting shrouded in clouds at the moment. So here we go. Okay, we're on a plateau about 2/3 of the way down the saddle, and there we are looking back up at Harris Mountain, and here's that plateau, and headed down to the cliffs down here, and we're going to navigate along the left side, so that should be very interesting. Once we get up to the ridge that's below Griffith Peak, it'll be easier going, but there's still a few challenging places to circumvent. So we will let's continue on. Once again, racing against the clouds. Hopefully those clouds are going to continue to dissipate. Continuing to close in on the saddle, base of the saddle down in that direction, and you can see the cliff area, and now I can start to see the trail that I'm headed for, which is right on the other side. There's a brief period where there's a trail that gets you around the cliff, the left side of the cliff, and then on up to the ridge. Once you get on the ridge, then pretty much home free unless we've got a whiteout situation. I'm not thinking we're going to have that. And things are opening up here. Let's take a look. There's the south. There's Griffith Peak, south ridge of Laval Canyon, Charleston Peak, Lee Peak, and Mummy Mountain. So we've been navigating our way down this area. Combination of avalanche slope and lots of brush. But there's enough opening that I haven't had to plow through any brush. So that's always good, because then I'm not going to break any plants. And I always try in these wilderness wanderings to leave everything just as I found it, not to break even one branch. So, okay, onward. And as you can see, we've got clouds on the other side of Griffith Peak, and they seem to be dissipating when they hit the summit, which is nice, as long as we can keep this side of Griffith Peak clear and in the opening visible. But no guarantees. We got another 2.5 hours that we need to have clarity here. So onward down to the cliffs, and then skirting along the left side of the cliffs. Okay, closing in on the saddle. And you see the cliffs ahead. We're going to navigate on the left side of those cliffs and see if we can find a way. We've been down from the top, but the question is, can we find it going in this direction? And this has been a good rest. So that's good news. And you can see what we're navigating here, just weaving in and out of brushy areas and sticking as much as we can to the open spots between. And there you see Griffith Peak. So left side of the cliffs, and then on up that ridge below Griffith Peak. Here we go. We're at the base of the saddle, and you can see what looks like a trail over there, and we're going to hopefully stay with that. That'll get us up to the upper ridge, where we can then navigate the ridge on up to Griffith Peak. That'll get us around this cliff area, and as I mentioned, we were going to head around the left side of this cliff and on up. We just need to get to that ridge beyond the cliff, and then it's going to be a lot more easy going, and hopefully this little trail will help us out. Okay, and then just looking around, there's Laval Canyon, and the ridge system we've been on before. I see the clouds moving in there, and hopefully we can't see Griffith Peak right now, but hopefully they're not moving in on Griffith Peak. And there we have Harris Mountain. Just came down this ridge, down the saddle. A lot of weaving around brush, but there were enough open areas that we did not have to plow through any brush, which is very good. It's always our goal. There's Fletcher Peak, Mummy Mountain, Lee Peak, and Charleston Peak. And then looking down here is Charleston Village. And we started out at Cathedral Rock, which may be this feature right in the center there. Not entirely sure, simply because, well, there are a lot of cliffs that look like that, but I believe that's Cathedral Rock. Okay, so now let's see if we can hitch this little trail around this cliff area. Wow, it's a bird, a jet bird, just shot through here. I'm glad that he didn't miss his coordinates and hit me. He must have been going 100 miles an hour. Okay, anyway, circling around the left side and then on up to the ridge up there. Let's see how easy or difficult that's going to be. We've descended about 1,000 feet and we're approximately 2,000 feet below Griffith Peak, so we need to reascend another 2,000 feet here. And you know, as you can see, faint trail. Hopefully this is going to navigate around the left side of this cliff system and get us up on the upper ridge. That would be great, and I believe it does that, as long as we don't get off course. Okay, here we go. Reminder, even though we're into June, it is still just starting to become spring in this area. There's some Indian paintbrush, and this little trail continues. Awesome, just what we needed. And I bet it goes up this area and then navigates around the edge of that cliff. Okay, so far everything's looking good. And looking back, there's another view of the ridge up from the base of the saddle between Griffith and Harris, up to Harris. And then here's something great. Here's a great shot of Laval Canyon, all the way down the canyon. And you can see that another approach to Griffith Peak would be to head straight up that canyon and then ascend to the saddle here. And it looks like it's very doable. And then head up to the upper ridge there and up to Griffith Peak. So we'll do that one of these days. Lots of options ahead of us. And you can see over in the distance here, there's Bridge Mountain in the center, Brown Mountain, and then to the right of Bridge Mountain, I believe we're looking at Mount Wilson peeking up over the Wilson Ridge. Okay, just to give you an idea where we are. And then if it were a clear day, you'd be seeing Potassium Mountain all the way down at the base of Laval Canyon. But for now, navigating around these cliffs up to this ridge. And I believe there is a trail. I've come down that trail, very faint, and you just have to pick it out. But there's a trail that will take us around these cliffs on the left side up to that ridge, and then it's just a matter of avalanche slopes and the ridge up to Griffith Peak. Okay, here we go. By the way, remember that trail, the main trail to Harris Mountain that starts at Harris Springs Road? We saw that from Laval Canyon. You can see the Laval Canyon video to get another image of that, or the slideshow. Here's a view of that trail. You see that straight trail there from a perspective higher than the trail. Well, this is called the trail just when you need it. And you can see somebody's actually created some stairs. A lot of work went into this. It hasn't been maintained, but this is a trail that goes somewhere. We're going to find out. It will at least get to the top of the ridge up there. But it skirts the cliffs, which is the big thing here. Because I'd hate to be trying to climb over those cliffs. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of area to climb, unless you're a rock climber, which I am not. Okay, so let's continue on up this trail, and I believe it's going to continue to give us away up to that ridge up there. And hopefully it's not clouded in. Okay, here we go. Well, we have now cleared at least the edge of these cliffs. As you can see, the trail continues to work for us, and what looked from below like an impossible traverse is actually one of the easiest sections on the whole route, because we have an actual trail here. So let's continue on this, and you can see actually, somebody's put a lot of work into this trail. You can see how they've taken boulders and created a little barrier to keep the avalanche slope from just wiping the trail out. So we continue on, and things are looking good right now. And once again, there's our next waypoint, is getting to the top of this ridge up here, and then it's a little easier going. Not a giveaway, definitely, because there are a number of avalanche slopes and ledges to circumvent between here and Griffith Peak, but at least this is the most imposing portion, and we have just circumvented it thanks to this little trail. Seems impossible, but this trail that I'm on has held out, and it has actually taken us around the edge, about midway on the screen here. It's taken us around the edge of that cliff and down, up from the saddle. And there's the saddle. There's Harris Mountain. We just came down from Harris Mountain. It took us about a half hour to get to the base of the saddle. And we're still making good time thanks to this trail. And you can see even up ahead where somebody has created a retaining wall to keep the avalanche slope from wiping the trail out. So a lot of work went into this trail. It hasn't been maintained anytime recently, but it is definitely a well-constructed trail. So continuing on up, as you can see, we're almost at the upper ridge here, and then we head, take a left along this ridge and head to Griffith Peak. So this was actually the easiest section of the whole day due to having an actual trail here, and the hardest section due to the topography and dealing with that cliff. So without the trail, wow, what a challenge that would have been. Anyway, let's continue on up this trail and see if we can get up to the top of this ridge and then head on over to Griffith Peak. By the way, as you look down toward Laval Canyon, you can see how rugged this is. And, if you know how to navigate this area, you can do so without having to do any rock climbing. If you get hung up in those cliffs, though, yeah, that looks near impossible. Very crumbly rock and vertical ledges down there. Okay, we're gonna experience a little bit of that up ahead, and as long as we can circumvent a few ledges, we'll be in good shape. We've done it on the way down. We've never done it going in this direction. By the way, we descended 1,000 feet. We've already reascended 250 feet. So back on the way up, we've got 1,750 feet to get to the summit of Griffith Peak. And the weather's holding out very well. The semblance of a trail is continuing, which is pretty good. I have not connected with the trail this far along. I came down from that upper ridge on the on my other trip. You see that rocky outcrop there? That's one of the main outcrops we need to circumvent, and maybe this trail will do the job. That's cool. Otherwise, I'm going to need to hit the avalanche slope up there, and as you can see, clouds moving in. It's good I've been through this section a couple times already, so that will definitely help if I get just fogged out up there. I'll still be able to pick my way up to the summit of Griffith Peak, and then there's a good trail all the way back down to the south climb trailhead, except I don't know what the snow condition is at different points along that trail. So continuing along this little trail here. Very awesome. Okay, here we go. Oh, by the way, let's do a 360-degree view. Laval Canyon. And there is Bridge Mountain. And then to the right of it is Mount Wilson. And here is that trail along Harris Mountain. And then looking back, there's Harris Mountain, and we're now back up to 1,600 feet below Griffith Peak, so only about 500 feet below the high point we achieved so far at the summit of Harris Mountain. Okay, let's continue on. Well, here we are still about 400 feet below the elevation of Harris Mountain. And we lost any semblance of a trail some time ago. So we are left to navigate the avalanche ridge system here. I'm navigating it lower than I have in the past, and hopefully this will circumvent some of the rocky outcrop sections, but I do know that we need to be heading up in this direction, and you see the clouds closing in. When we get around this ridge, we should get a view of Griffith Peak if it's not shrouded in the clouds. So here we are. This is not too bad an avalanche slope area. There's enough stability here that I'm not sliding on the slope before I've been up at the top coming down that upper ridge. Here I'm going to navigate a little lower and see if it's a little more friendly than the upper ridge, which skirts a couple cliff sections and gets us into a lot of straight up and down crazy avalanche slope areas with fallen trees and rocks and grass and all sorts of things to slip on. Okay, and then looking down, there's Laval Canyon, and you can see the trail midway up Harris Mountain. And there's the summit of Harris Mountain. And then, of course, the slopes here. This is what we are navigating right now. We are about 1,400 feet below Griffith Peak. So if we can continue gaining altitude, get up there to about 500 feet below, that will feel really good. And we'll be on a final ridge, I think, Okay, here we go. We're now 1,300 feet below Griffith Peak. There it is in the clouds, straight ahead. And there is no easy way, as I remember, around this next section. So we need to circumvent these cliffs here. And so it's going to be picking our way through this area. Glad that the clouds are not worse than they are right now. They still seem to be fairly dissipating. There you see Griffith Peak, the summit, right ahead. And let's give this a 360-degree view. We're on a precarious avalanche slope, but not too bad. There's Laval Canyon, and there you see the trail that leads from Harris Springs Road to the summit of Harris Mountain. Crosses midway and then heads up. And there, right behind the trees, is the summit of Harris Mountain. So we have some picking of the way to do to get along the base of those cliffs and get up above them so that we can get on that final ridge. So here we go. Okay, here comes the challenging section. Up this section of avalanche slope, and you see that cliff ahead. We need to skirt around the either the left side of that cliff or take a right and climb over it. So this is probably the most challenging part of this this route. So here we go. Well, the wind's definitely coming up, but I've skirted the last cliff area, and now it's just a pretty much a ridge up to the summit of Griffith Peak, and I believe this is the summit of Griffith Peak. Hopefully it's not another mountain that I'm going to get up there, look in the distance and see Griffith Peak beyond. I believe it's the summit of Griffith Peak. A lot of wind, it's getting cold, I think I'm going to need to change. This is what I just skirted, this cliff area. And you can see down into Centennial Hills. And who knows, that bright light down there may be Centennial Hills Hospital reflecting. And then you can see all of Laval Canyon. In fact, that may be the strip down there. I am just not sure. In fact, the more I think about it, yes, we're looking at some kind of reflection, potentially from the strip. I'm above the level of the summit of Harris Mountain now, and have traversed the most difficult section between here and Griffith Peak. So now it's just a matter of just taking this ridge that you see and just taking it all the way up to Griffith Peak. So it's going to be definitely a climb, meaning there's another, I don't know, 800, 900 feet elevation gain before I get up there. But The good news is the worst of the avalanche slopes and cliffs have been traversed, and now it's just a marathon climb the rest of the way. Here we go. Taking a little refuel break just before the summit of Griffith Peak, which you see right up here. It is cold and windy. Still have my running shorts on. I didn't bring anything warmer, but I do have a jacket and a t-shirt that I added to my tank top, which helps a little bit. And then once I get moving, things will be better. But whoa, it's cold. It is 88 degrees in Las Vegas in the valley, and it is around 48 degrees here, except the wind chill is bringing it down about 10 degrees, I think. So I bet we're under 40 degrees. I am just shaking. But we have the end in sight here, Griffith Peak. And then it's downhill all the way on trails. And hopefully we don't hit a lot of snow. Okay. I don't know if this video is shaking, but if it is, it's from the cold. Okay, here we go. By the way, there's Laval Canyon. You can see the sunshine on Bridge Mountain and Mount Wilson, and then the strip is down in that direction. The Madre Mountain over there, and the area I just came through. Okay, I gotta get moving. By the way, there's Laval Canyon. You can see the sunshine on Bridge Mountain and Mount Wilson, and then the strip is down in that direction. The Madre Mountain over there, and the area I just came through. Okay, I gotta get moving. Closing in on Griffith Peak, straight ahead. And let's do a 360. See, we're in a burn section. These were beautiful bristlecone pine trees, beautiful bristlecone pine forest, and it's all burned out now. There you can see Las Vegas Strip. Okay, Laval Canyon down there. Let's just take it in here, and the last section up to Griffith Peak. Well, I'm just about to top the summit of Griffith Peak. Before I do that though, I want to turn around and get one more look at the ridge we just ascended. There you see Harris Mountain. We're now about 1,000 feet above Harris Mountain. And then you can see between Harris Mountain and where we stand, you can see the ridge that we just navigated to get up to where we are. And let's look around here. Not a lot of place to stand, but this is not a bad spot, actually. There's Laval Canyon. And down in this direction, Bridge Mountain, smooth brown dome, And then to the right, Mount Wilson. And then on the other side of those two mountains in the Rainbow Mountains is Red Rock Park. And we'll head up to the summit of Griffith Peak and we'll look around and see some other sites that are starting to disappear in the clouds right now. Hopefully clouds will lift and we'll get somewhat of a view. Okay, onward up the last section to Griffith Peak summit. Here we are at the summit of Griffith Peak. It's been about 9 hours. Here's Laval Canyon and Ridge Mountain. Rainbow, let's see, Bridge Mountain, Rainbow Mountain, and Mount Wilson. And there's Potassi Mountain. But we are socked in with clouds. Here's Mummy Mountain. You can't see Mount Charleston today at this point. Charleston Observatory, right down in that area. There you go. Okay, let the races begin. We've made the junction. Only took about 10 minutes from the summit. You go in this direction and you're going to head to Mount Charleston. The other direction, Griffith Peak. So here we go. Wow, I gotta say, it is so good to be on an actual trail again after being 9 hours in the wilderness with no trail. We're heading down the South Climb Trail now. Going to be running it, but in fact I'm running it except for when I take videos. And oh my gosh, it is so nice to be on a real trail. Okay, onward.